Yes or no, did you lead an audit? Do you not know this answer?
Senator,
Yes
every
or
part
no?
of my leadership
Yes
of these
or no?
organizations
Yes
has
or
been
no, did you lead an audit?
misrepresented
I will
from
take
top
that
to
as a
bottom.
no. What were the findings? So there were no findings because you've never led an audit.
Not a trick, not a trap. A simple question: how many nations are in ASEAN? That is where this started. And by the time it ended, the most powerful military position in the world had been placed next to a man who could not answer the basics. Stay until the very end of this video, because the final moment, the one where a combat veteran who lost both legs in Iraq looks a nominee in the eye and delivers a verdict, is the moment that defines everything else.
Can you name the importance of at least one of the nations in the ASEAN, and what type of agreement we have with at least one of those nations? And how many nations are in ASEAN, by the way?
Watch what just happened. Because nothing in that exchange was accidental. She did not start with the hardest question. She started with the most basic one. ASEAN, 10 nations, Southeast Asia, foundational regional knowledge for anyone seeking to lead the most powerful military on Earth, and he named South Korea, Japan, Australia, 3 countries, 3 misses, not one of them in ASEAN. That is not a stumble. That is a signal. Because here is what that moment reveals. This is not advanced geopolitical strategy. This is not classified intelligence. This is baseline knowledge. The kind that is expected before day one. The kind that adversaries already know you should have. And when you do not have it, they notice. Allies notice. The room notices. Pay close attention to what comes next, because Duckworth was not finished. She was just getting started.
51,568 times smaller than the defense budget. Please describe to me, Mr. Hegseth, you talk about DoD passing an audit. Please describe to me a time or an organization when that you led underwent an audit, because you say you're going to hire smarter people than you to run this audit. I'm not asking you to be an accountant. I want you to be able to tell me what kind of guidance will be given to those employees, what will happen if, whether or not you pass that audit. Have you led an audit of any organization, yes or no? I don't want a long answer, yes or no. Have you led an audit of any organization of which you were in charge?
Senator, in both of the organizations I ran, we were always completely fiscally responsible.
Yes or no, did you lead an audit?
And the way
yes
my leadership
or no,
has
did you lead an audit?
stated,
yes or no?
Completely
what are you afraid of? You
mischaracterized.
can't answer this question. Yes or no, did you lead an audit? Do you not know this answer?
Senator, every
yes or
part
no?
of my leadership
yes
of these organizations
yes
has
or
been
no,
misrepresented
I will
from
take
top
that
to
as a
bottom.
no.
Notice the structure, because this is where the strategy shifts. She does not argue. She does not debate. She asks a simple question. Yes or no? Have you led an audit? 4 words. No interpretation required, no complexity. Just a direct answer to a direct question. He circles. He reframes. He talks about fiscal responsibility. He does everything except answer the question. So she asks again. Same question. Yes or no? Again, no answer. And then comes the line that ends the exchange. Calm. Controlled. Final. I will take that as a no. That sentence does something specific. It removes all ambiguity. It tells everyone in the room and everyone watching that the answer is no. That the witness knows the answer is no, and that the refusal to say it out loud is itself a kind of answer. No shouting. No theatrics. Just a conclusion that cannot be walked back. Now think about what that means in context. The Department of Defense budget is $825 billion. The largest organization Hegseth had ever led contained 200 people and a budget of $16 million. That is not a step up. That is a different universe, 51,000 times smaller. And when that organization had financial problems after he left, they had to bring in a forensic accountant to figure out what went wrong. These are not opinions. These are numbers. And numbers do not lie. But the audit question was not the final test. The final test was still coming.
Status of Forces Agreement would be one of them.
Status of Forces Agreement. I've been a part of teaching about Status of Forces Agreements.
But you don't remember to mention it? You're not qualified, Mr. Hegseth. You're not qualified. You talk about repairing our defense industrial complex. You're not qualified to that. You could do acquisition and cross-servicing agreements, which essentially are security agreements. You can't even mention that. You've done none of those. You talked about the Indo-Pacific a little bit, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. Can you name the importance of at least one of the nations in the ASEAN, and what type of agreement we have with at least one of those nations? And how many nations are in ASEAN, by the way?
I couldn't tell you the exact
No, you
amount of
couldn't,
nations
because
in
you've
that,
not
but I
even
know we have
bothered to do-
allies in South Korea and Japan and in AUKUS with Australia, trying to work
Okay.
on submarines with them.
Mr.
and data
Hegseth,
transfers
none
with
of those
them.
countries
We
are
have
in
allies
ASEAN.
across.
None of those 3 countries that you've mentioned are in ASEAN. I suggest you do a little homework before you prepare for these types of negotiations. Listen.
Notice how she gets there. Because she does not start with that verdict, she builds to it. First, she resets the frame. This hearing is not about distractions. It is not about side debates. It is about one thing: qualification. Once that frame is established, every answer is measured against it. Every failure becomes clearer. Then she brings out the soldier's creed, not as decoration, not as theater, as proof. Because Tammy Duckworth is not just a senator asking questions. She is a combat veteran who lost both legs in Iraq. She is someone who read those words on a wall at Walter Reed every single morning while fighting her way back because she wanted to return to the soldiers who saved her life. I will always place the mission first. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior tasks. Those are not abstract words to her. They are the standard she held herself to when holding herself to a standard cost her more than most people in that room will ever be asked to give. And now she draws the line. Our troops meet this standard every day. In combat, under pressure, with lives on the line. They pack their rucksacks and they go to war. They do not ask for the standard to be lowered. They ask for a leader who meets it. So why should the standard be different for the person leading them? That is the question she is really asking. Not out loud, but clearly. And by the time she delivers the verdict, "You are not qualified," it does not feel like an opinion. It feels like the only logical conclusion of everything that came before it. No build-up needed, no drama required. Just the result of a methodical, step-by-step demonstration of a gap between what the job requires and what the nominee brought into that room. Now, zoom out, because this moment is larger than one hearing. Think about what confirmation hearings are actually designed to do. They are filters. Controlled environments where nominees face pressure before the pressure becomes real. Where questions can be asked without consequences beyond the room. Where gaps can be identified before they cost lives. The ASEAN question was not a trick. It was a filter. The audit question was not an attack. It was a filter. The final verdict was not political theater. It was the filter working exactly as designed. And what it caught was not a difference of opinion or a gap in ideology. It was a gap in preparation. A gap in knowledge. A gap between the complexity of the job and the readiness of the person seeking it. Our adversaries watch moments like this. They catalog them. They assess what they reveal about American leadership. They draw conclusions about what they can and cannot do based on who is making the decisions on the other side. That is not hypothetical. That is how strategic competition works. And when the person sitting across from them does not know how many nations are in ASEAN, does not remember to mention status of forces agreements until prompted, and cannot answer a yes or no question about leading an audit, that is information. Real information. The kind that shapes decisions in rooms far more consequential than a Senate hearing chamber. Tammy Duckworth knows this. She lived the consequences of leadership decisions. She carried them in her body every single day. That is why the verdict landed the way it did, not because she said it loudly, but because she earned the right to say it quietly. And everyone in that room understood exactly what it meant. The question now is what the system does with it, whether the filter holds, whether the standard is upheld or adjusted, whether the line drawn in that room means something beyond the room itself. Because once that vote is cast, it does not stay contained. It travels into decisions, into consequences, into outcomes that no one in that hearing room will be able to take back. 3 questions, 3 failures, 1 verdict. You are not qualified to lead our troops. Sometimes the clearest sentences are the ones that took the longest to earn. If this moment matters to you, hit the like button so more people see it. Drop 1 word in the comments. What do you think that ASEAN hesitation actually revealed? Subscribe and turn on notifications because the next hearing breakdown is already coming. And share this with someone who needs to see what happens when the filter works exactly as designed.